p.m. and you are at the Planning Commission meeting. I think we all are now. I will ask everybody that has a cell phone to hit the little button on the side to make it be quiet. Do the same with watches and other beeping devices. All commissioners are present, excepting Kevin. So we got 6 out of 7. I'll stand up. I'll give us a quick prayer, and then I'll ask Mike to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. God, we thank you so much to be able to come here every month and try to do our best to make the best decisions to benefit this city, Lord. We thank you so much for this city, that we get to live here in one of the best places on this earth. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. All right, we will call this meeting to order. First item is going to be approval of minutes from our May meeting. I trust everybody has read them. Do I have any comments on them? If not, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion to accept by Matthew, second by?
Me.
Heard Alan. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. Minutes are good. No old business. Moving down to old business, we have one item that's not a public hearing. We'll knock it out pretty quick. 612 Azalea Lane, PID 610-900-100000. Neil Olive, requesting to construct a single-family home on a historically platted, legal, non-conforming lot. I assume this would be a Wadeism.
It is, correct. Okay, go jump right into it. Just to fill you in, well, first off, we did get a phone call today from the owner of 609 Azalea Lane, Miss Mimi Massa. She's want to state that she's in favor of the project here for 612 Azalea. Just want to she requested that into the record. Also to fill you in that the variance requests for this property were recommended for approval by the Zoning Adjustment Board at the meeting prior to this one. So it is getting a recommendation of approval for the reduced front and rear yard setbacks, consistent with the plan that's on your packet. But this, as I said, this is construction of a house on a historically platted but legal non-conforming parcel. It's in the R2 district, so the minimum size is 11,250. In this case, the property is only just a little over 6,000 square feet, slightly more than half the minimum size that would ordinarily be required. Also, the lot is 65 feet wide, which is related to the reasoning for the variances that are requested. In this case, the lot, as you can see, contains an existing mobile home that's been added onto and really more converted to a more permanent dwelling. But the plan is, by the owner, is to demolish that and construct a new house on the property. The reason that parcels like this come before you is to give an opportunity to make sure that it is a truly developable piece of property, that there are adequate utilities, access, and so forth. In this case, obviously, the house is there already. It does have access both to Azalea Lane, north and south, and a small part of Azalea northeast and west, being on the corner. Also, it has been reviewed by Public Works, so that there are available sewer taps, which may need to be redone with the part of the construction for a new house. But it does have water and sewer available in the property. So with that, staff is recommending approval of the construction on this non-conforming lot. And we do have Mr. Neil Olive, the property owner applicant, is here also if he wants to answer questions.
Does anybody have anything for Wade before we get Neil up here? Where's Neil?
He's there.
Did you want to say anything at the microphone? Just name and address before you get going, please.
I'm Neil Olive. During the week at 13064 Riverwalk Circle, D. Iberville. On weekends at 610 Azalea Lane, directly next door to the property we're talking about. I do have signs from the one you spoke about, plus 5 other people on the street saying they'd love for us to build a house there.
Okay. You can. So you can get. So that is just Amanda confirm. It just says, hey, they're good with it. There's 5 local people, correct?
Yes.
All right. Does anybody want to accept that in the minutes? or motion by Alan, second by Joe, all in favor? All opposed. All right, so we got that in the minutes now, so keep going. I'm sorry to interrupt.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Keep going.
Okay. This is what's sitting there now. It's a 1962 trailer that's been permanently added on to. It's a rental property that I have. And we enjoy downtown Ocean Springs. We're here all the time. Most people have seen us with our dogs on weekends. And I'm one of the past Commodores of the Yacht Club. What we want to do is to sell our house in Riverwalk and build our permanent home on that lot. But it's a wish for small. And I built a house in Riverwalk that's about 2,600 square foot. I've been a real estate broker forever, and I've done new construction forever with Freeman Homes, Heinemann Homes. It's not my first rodeo. I do know what I'm doing. And we want to be a permanent part of the community, not just a weekend part of the community.
Okay. Anybody got any questions for Neil?
Any questions, I'll answer them.
All right, thank you, Neil. Does anybody else in the audience want to speak in favor, against, or in general about the Azalea home request? Name and address at the microphone, please.
Brian Whitmer's 515 Azalea Lane, totally in favor. And my wife and I signed the paper that you have with your meeting minutes, and appreciate an approval.
All right. Anybody else in the audience want to speak in any direction? Azalea, going once, going twice, sold. Any comments from the commissioners? Questions, thoughts? Anybody want to take a stab at a motion?
Make a motion, we recommend approval of the construction of the single-family dwelling on a historically platted non-conforming lot at 612 Azalea Drive.
All right, I have a motion by by Alan to approve. Second by Joe. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. We've only been together a few years. I haven't learned their names yet, but I'm working on it. I'm getting real close. All right, so that should be on next week's agenda for the board meeting. The board will have final determination. It'll be on the consent agenda. I would recommend you be there, but it's up to you. All right. From now on, all these items are going to be public hearings. They're going to take a minute more, but not much. It'll be very simple. I will just make a motion to go into public hearing. We will likely approve that motion. Thanks, Neil. Likely approve that motion. We'll be in a public hearing, and we'll have a staff comments, and then it'll be a little more formal public process as far as comments. We will ask everybody to be courteous to the others. We kind of have a full agenda today. Try to limit your time to 3 minutes apiece. And if somebody else goes up and they say, I like this or I don't like this for this reason, you can just go up and say, I agree. You don't have to keep saying the same reasons over and over. Just give me the minutes and show opposition or favoritism for a item. So why don't we do one, see how it goes. Public hearing, item number 4B, 1203 LaFontaine Avenue, parcel ID 601-37302, OOO, Nancy Allen, is requesting a conditional use permit to allow a 4-unit apartment building to operate within the R1 single-family residential district. A motion to go to public hearing. So moved. Got a motion by Matthew, second by Joe. All in favor? Aye. All opposed. We are in a public hearing. I assume Wade will be telling us about this one.
Indeed, thank you. This is a conditional use permit to allow the continuation of a existing multifamily building. I think you pointed out, it is in the R1 low-density single-family district. So from that standpoint, it is being multifamily. It is a non-conforming structure, non-conforming use. So the purpose of the conditional use permit is to allow it to be rebuilt if for some reason it were destroyed by fire, hurricane, other natural disaster. In this case, you can see from the zoning map on the screen that it is the border between the R1 district and the commercial marina district to its east. It's a wide variety of types of lot sizes in the vicinity, and it has been in existence since about 1971, according to the tax records. It is a stable area. So from staff standpoint, from looking at it, that This is compatible with the area. It's fitted for 71. So from that standpoint, it's a continuation would be appropriate. So we are recommending approval of the conditional use permit. Thank you.
Does anybody have anything for staff before we go to public? Nope. All right. You're the applicant, correct? Did you want to get up and speak?
I don't have much to say, but I'm Nancy Allen. I reside at 1402 Elmer's Lane, and my husband and I bought this property in the last 15 years because it was an eyesore. And I look at it every day, all day if I'm home. And so we, improved the looks of it for anyone who remembers what it used to look like. And my only concern was the new construction that's going to be happening across the street, perhaps during hurricane season, because at the moment that's a vacant lot, and if anything would happen, there were time restraints on the previous grandfather clause, and it was suggested that I apply for this instead. So I'm just doing it as was suggested.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Nancy? I've got a bone to pick with you.
Yeah?
I lived there 13 years ago before you bought it. It was much more dangerous on the stairs and everything. I should have bought it a year or two earlier. That's all I'll ask.
You and Ben, yeah.
13 years ago.
Okay, so there you go, documentation. I bought it after that.
All right. All right. Anybody in the audience want to speak in favor of the conditional use permit to allow the apartments to continue to operate on the Fontaine? Anybody in favor? Anybody in opposition to? Anybody want to speak to the Fontaine 4-unit apartment building at all? Conditional use permit. Once, twice, sold. Anybody got anything before we go out of public hearing? Motion Marshall, go out of public hearing. Second. Allen, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. Out of public hearing. Any final comments or questions? Discussion. All right. Anybody want to make a motion?
Make a motion that we recommend approval of the conditional use permit for 1201 La Fontaine Avenue.
1203.
1203.
Okay. All right. Marshall's got a motion on the floor. Does anybody second that?
Second.
I'll go with Joe. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. All right. So that will be on, does it skip or is that one on the next one?
It gets advertised for another public
Okay,
hearing.
so that'll be on the first meeting in, what are we, next month? July.
I thought it was July 19th.
Fifth?
Do I have to, if I don't have to be there, you can do it on the 5th.
It's a public hearing, so you do need to be present. She's going to skip, and she's going to be
Okay.
out of town on the 5th.
So it'll be advertised for the 19th,
If you're not there, you're going to need to be there. If you are there, you're not going to need to be there.
like an umbrella.
Yeah. Murphy comes to every council agenda. All right, public hearing, item 4C. This is 1109 Iola Road and 1120 East Cherokee Avenue. Parcel IDs are 610-630-29000 and 610-540-18000. Lars and Michael Larson and Helen Stennis are requesting a replat of Lot 29 of the Davidson Hills subdivision and a replat of lots 18 and 19, Block A of the Cherokee Glen North subdivision. Do I have a motion to go into public hearing? Motion, Allen. I've heard a second from Mike.
Yes.
Sorry, could you give Mike the motion? He's offended. All in favor of going into public hearing?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, we are in public hearing. Is this another Wade?
It is.
Go ahead.
Okay. This is really a very simple request. What they want to do is to transfer about, 2,400 square feet of property, the western 24 feet of the common shared property line, transfer that from the lot on East Cherokee Glen to the lot on Iola. Just enlarge that property. Difficulty comes in is the fact it is in two separate subdivisions, so the requirements are, these technical requirements have to amend the plats of both of those subdivisions in order just to accomplish this. But from looking at the actual configuration, the proposed reconfiguration of the amendment to the two plats does not affect the minimum lot size of the lot on Cherokee Glen, on what's that address, excuse me, 1120 East Cherokee. It does not reduce it below the minimum size of the R1 district, nor does it reduce the minimum setback, rear yard setback of the house to below the minimum requirement. There are no easements within the property to be impacted by it. So from that standpoint, staff is recommending approval. It would point out that in order to be consistent with state requirements, state laws on amending subdivision plats, there are two motions in here. One is to have a finding that there are no individuals adversely affected. Second is to actually recommend the reconfiguration of 1109 Iola and 1120 East Cherokee. So I just wanted to point that out to you. The applicant is here and can answer any questions you might have.
Yep.
Thank you.
Did the applicant want to speak? All right, name and address at the microphone, please. Yeah.
Hi, my name's Lawrence Larson. I'm at 1109 Iowa Road, and me and Miss Ginger have come into agreement on the sale of 24 feet of her backyard that backs up to my backyard, and we're seeking your approval for that. Thank you.
Yep. All right. Anybody else in the audience want to speak in favor of the splitting part of Davidson Hill subdivision to Cherokee Glen North? Anybody in opposition to? Anybody else want to speak to this application at all, requesting replat of Lot 29 of Davidson Hill subdivision and replat of Lot 18 and 19 Block A of Cherokee Glen North? I didn't expect a lot of it. So do I have a motion to close public hearing? Motion by Matthew, second by... we'll go Marshall because Mike didn't speak up loud enough. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right. We are out of public hearing. Any comments from the planning commissioners? Any thoughts?
Wait, just to be clear,
Yeah.
Iola is getting more of the square footage and East Cherokee is losing.
That's correct. Yeah,
I thought you said it the other way around, so I want to make sure I was clear with that.
Now, yeah, it's coming off of the Cherokee Glen lot going to the Iola.
Yes.
Sorry if I'm...
That's all right. I probably misheard.
All right. What else? Found,
The
Stephen?
square footage of Iola is the 13.5 then after this?
No, let me see. I think it's a very large lot. Let me see what I think the dimensions are in
I
here.
didn't see that on that one.
It says
As long as it
20
is.
on our thing, but I don't know if it was 20 before or after. It's on the...
No, that's,
24 is a
Oh, I'm sorry, the Iola side. You're right. I got you.
Let me see.
I just didn't see it on there. As long as it's
I thought it was written down then.
Hang
It
on.
was at one point.
It's probably on one of the surveys.
But it's enlarging it anyway.
It
so
is
it's
enlarging
getting-
it.
even if it was
Enlarges it by
efficient, that should be even
2400.
But if
closer.
they're changing, sure it's.
It's got that
Oh,
table
makes
on it.
sense.
I've got it.
Okay, after the reduction, Cherokee Glen will still be 20,800 square feet in area, so well above the
What
minimum.
about the Iola side? Is what you're...
Iola side, it'll be, well, it's not on here.
Laura, you don't happen to know off the top of your head what the resulting square footage on the Iola side is, do you?
I'm sorry, I don't. I'm a third of an acre as stands. It's
Okay.
just a triangle with easements, non-buildable funky lot. And then I'll be adding 2,400 square feet to it.
I think Amanda's got it too, so.
17,041 square feet.
That's after.
That's after.
Yeah, it's up there, okay.
Yeah.
So actually, it probably was 104, but it's
Well, I
probably
thought it was, yeah.
All right. Anybody else got anything? All right. So first thing I want to ask y'all is, do you think that anybody other than these two individuals are affected by moving the lot line between just these two individuals? Anybody have any comments on that, or does anybody want to make a motion to say whether or not they believe other people are affected by this change?
I'll make a motion that there are no individuals that will be adversely affected or directly interested in the reconfiguration of Lot 29 of the Davidson Hill subdivision and lots 18 and 19 of the Cherokee Glen subdivision.
Okay. So that would be other than the applicants. correct? Okay. So other than the applicants, nobody is affected is Alan's motion. Does anybody agree with that? Want to make a second? All right, second was Marshall, Amanda, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. All right, so now that we don't think anybody other than those two will be affected, does anybody want to make a motion as to whether or not they should be allowed to replat?
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of the reconfiguration of 1109 Iola Road, Lot 29 of the Davidson Hills subdivision, and 1120 East Cherokee Avenue, Lot 18 of the Cherokee Glen subdivision, as requested in the application.
All right, so we have a motion by Joe and a second by? I'll second. I got Marshall on the second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. So that will be on the first July meeting, the 5th of July for final decision. All right, moving on, item 4D, we're going to get into some residential short-term permits. This is 315 Pine Drive will be the first one, 614-550-150, parcel ID number. Linda Lindsay requesting a residential short-term permit. Carolyn?
Yes. As you have in your packet, the applicant is actually also going to be the project manager and does satisfy, property manager and does satisfy the residency requirement. There were 53 notices sent, and a letter of support was received prior to and is included in your packet. It did pass all inspections, and although the maximum occupancy was requested at 10 and was reduced to 8, 3 vehicles were approved. Everything's been updated to reference that. It had no prior infractions or code enforcement, and so with that being said, it meets all the ordinance requirements and is recommended for approval for annual permit subject to annual renewal.
Okay, real quick, the question I had was she lists herself on the application of project, now you got me doing it.
Yeah,
Property management, but then it's got a different guy's name on the, like the sign-out sheet, Chris Dearman. Do we care about that?
Oh,
Say it again.
On her rules, it just says contact Chris Dearman with any questions. She could probably explain it. Is she here?
It's going to be Chris.
Do you want to come to the microphone and say hello and name and address? I believe that's what I said. Did we go into public hearing? No, we didn't go into public hearing. You can't talk yet. Does anybody want to make a motion to go into public hearing? Do you second that, Joe? Motion Marshall, second Joe. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Oh, would you like to speak now? Sorry about that.
Okay, I'm Linda Lindsay, 315 Pine Drive. It's going to be Chris Dearman, property manager.
But he still lives
but
in
he
Ocean
still,
Springs?
yes.
Yes.
Yeah, no. But you got to have.
For the record, he also does meet the residency requirements.
Okay. All right. Anybody got any other questions? Did you have anything else to say? Sorry, I was kind of out.
I don't think so, not at this time.
Okay. Anybody got questions for Lindsay before she says? She's going quick. You better ask. No? Okay. Thank you. Anybody else wants to speak either in favor of 315 Pine Drive application?
Yes.
All right. Name and address at the microphone, please.
.305 Pine Drive. I have been living
I'm sorry,
on Pine.
name 2, man.
What?
No, name 2 for the record.
Oh, yes. Letitia G. Machado, 305 Pine Drive. I've been living on Pine Drive for 5 years, and this particular property has been an eyesore ever since for the last at least 2 or 3 years. The garbage is always all over the place. I think you can ask your Department of Public Works what a job that has added to them. And number one, I believe in Ocean Springs being a city of residents, not short-term rentals, number one. Number two, I have not seen that the maintenance and the care of that property has been outstanding. In fact, it's been a mess. I mean, garbage doesn't even make the garbage cans. Now, that doesn't mean that if it's a short-term resident, that it will be any better. There'll be a lot of people there, and And I do not see the ownership being responsible or behaving responsible responsibly all this time. So it gives me qualms about what will this property, how will it be used, and what will the maintenance be. But no, I don't think that this should be a short-term rental. Just one more short-term rental in a town that is for the residents, one would think, not just for the fly-by-night, for the weekend people.
Yep. All right, thank you. So looking more for people in favor right now, but let's go ahead, favor or against. Anybody else want to speak either way on 315 Pine Drive? Anybody in favor, anybody against? Name and address at the microphone, please.
My name is Tanya Darrow, and I live at 4125 Silverwood Drive. So where I don't know this particular applicant, I am a licensed realtor in this state, and I do manage about 117 short-term rentals. And so, excuse me, I'm speaking in favor of it because in order for us to be successful, we have to maintain our properties. So if this particular person has just picked up this property, maybe shouldn't have an opportunity to actually go in and do all the things she needs to do to be successful. So I'm speaking in favor, again, like I said, because in order for us to be successful, we have to put our best foot forward. We have to be better than everybody else, the competition, and all that stuff. So I really feel like this particular young lady is going to make this property amazing, or else she's not going to stay in business. Yeah. So it is eventually going to be an asset to the street, and I think she'll see that, you know, a lot of people are going to really enjoy coming there, and she's going to enjoy meeting people.
Yeah, we've heard live and die by reviews is something we've heard here before. Anybody else in favor or against? Anybody want to speak about 315 Pine Drive? Go ahead. Name and address at the microphone, please.
My name is Liz Sequel, and I live at 316 Lovers Lane. I also have a vacation rental at 2 Evelyn Drive, which I've maintained for about 2 years now. But I will say, as the lady who just spoke said, that vacation rentals live and die by reviews, and it is of the utmost importance to keep the yard as immaculate as you keep the inside. I know Linda personally and have for the last 30 years and have been to her house very frequently, and she just so happens to keep her yard as well as her home extremely immaculate. So I will absolutely say that for the record. And I know that she will go above and beyond for the vacation rental as well. I own another vacation rental also, but not in the city of Ocean Springs, and something that most people who do own vacation rentals take pride in what they do in bringing people to the coast, the area that we all love so much. And oftentimes vacation rentals are the nicest houses on the street, and I have no doubt in my mind that Linda and Bo will do the same thing for Pine Drive with their property. Because it will be an income source, and if it wasn't completely immaculate, then they wouldn't get the return business, and I think that's the whole idea of that business. So I definitely am for vacation rentals being in the city of Ocean Springs, inviting people to come to the coast to visit and enjoy all of the resources that we have to offer.
All right, thank you. Anybody else in the audience want to speak about all right, name and address at the microphone, please.
Yes, Reese Lindsay, 315 Pine Drive. I'm stunned. I've been living there a couple years, and we have never had one complaint about garbage being in our yard, on the street. We've never heard this. We have neighbors we stand out and talk to all the time that are totally in favor of this. Nobody's ever talked to us about garbage or our yard. I found that absurd.
Yep. Got it. All right, anybody else? Once, twice. So, do I have a motion to close the public hearing? Or, I'm sorry, well, you were down, Ken, so I guess they can let that talk. Motion to close public hearing. All right, motion, Allen, second. Marshall, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are out of public hearing. Do I have any commissioner comments, thoughts, questions?
I would just say, I mean, I go by that house 5 times a day, and I would never have said it was an eyesore or had any issue. There are at least 3 or 4 other houses between Kensington and Stewart that I think might be more applicable for those comments. So I'm a little confused by that as well. And so I'm not sure if maybe there might have been a mistake on which house we were talking about.
Okay.
It was mentioned in the comments that Public Works may have some comments on this, or
Well, that would be on the trash issue.
Yeah.
The only response we really have on that is any future complaints regarding trash, because there are rules as far as containment of your trash should be reported.
Code violation.
It would be a
As of
code
now, we
violation.
haven't seen it.
As of now, there was nothing on record yet.
Thank you.
I don't think it was that house. I mean, I don't understand why it could have been the case.
Marshall, you going to say something?
Yeah, I just had a question. In your application, there's a little thing in red that says standard mail out fees will be recalculated.
What was that? What was the question, Marshall? I didn't.
If you look at the application, go down to the fee of $200, there's something red typed in there.
That's the mail out fee.
Yeah. The fees are paid, they have the application fee, and they have to pay the actual pass-through mail-out fee, which they are invoiced for and paid before. That's how the notices go out.
Okay. All right, anybody else? All right, does anybody want to make a motion on this one?
I make a motion and recommendation for approval of the short-term rental permit subject to annual review.
All right, I got a motion to approve by Mike, second by Matthew. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. So that will not be on next week's, that will be on the July 5th agenda for final approval with the board. Okay. All right, next one's going to be another short-term rental. This is a public hearing for 811 General Pershing Avenue. Parcel ID is 601-193-9000. Ursula and Christopher Monroe are requesting a residential short-term permit. Do I have a motion to go into public hearing?
So moved.
We got a motion, Mike, second Marshall. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We are in public hearing. Carolyn, take her away.
There you go. In this case, the owner will also serve as the property manager and does meet the residency requirement. The notice was sent to 59 property owners and no input was received prior to this meeting. The inspection took place on April 27th, and both the occupancy of 2 vehicles were approved. No code violations or other infractions were reported within the last 12 months. All inspections passed. It meets all the requirements of the ordinance and therefore is recommended for approval for short-term rental permit, subject to annual renewal.
Anybody got anything for Carolyn before we move on? All right, is the applicant here? Do they want to speak? You want to speak? We'll give you a chance at the end if somebody says something you need to respond to. How about that? All right, is there anybody else here for 811 General Pershing want to speak in, let's start with opposition to this time. 811 General Pershing, opposition to. Anybody in favor of? Anybody here to talk about 811 General Pershing Avenue short-term rental?
Okay.
Name and address again. Do we have to do it every time? I guess we do, right? We do.
Yes, Tanya Darrow, 4125 Silverwood. I will be the property manager. I live 10 minutes from here. As I said, I manage a lot of properties. I'm on call 24/7, so my full team is available if there's ever any noise ordinances. Once, it gets passed and everything, I'll go introduce myself to all the neighbors. They'll have all my information, so I'll be available if anything, comes up. We'll make sure to take care of it right away.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, anybody else want to speak in favor of, in opposition to, generally, questions, comments, concerns, General Pershing, short-term rentals? Once, twice sold. I guess you don't want to speak, do you? Do I have a motion to close public hearing? All right, motion Marshall, second. Joe, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, out of public hearing. Any questions, comments, concerns from the commissioners? Do I have a motion?
Yeah, I'm going to motion we approve the short-term permit Make a motion, we approve short-term permit, 811 General Pershing Avenue, subject to annual renewal.
All right, motion to approve from Alan, second. Joe, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, so July 5th. Item 4F, this is going to be a public hearing, 808, number 3, DeSoto Street, 601-19106. Robert Dunning is requesting a residential short-term rental permit.
Yes.
Wait, sorry, I didn't do the public hearing.
Yes,
Do I have a motion
please.
to go to public hearing? So moved. Motion Matthew, second Marshall, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, we're there.
Okay. Chris Dearman will also be the property manager for this one and does meet the residency requirement. This one does actually have the active homeowner association, it being a multifamily development, but we did receive the letter from the HOA in support of and giving approval for the permit. So that is consistent and compliant with the ordinance. 47 property owners were notified and no input was received prior to this meeting. The inspection on April 28th was approved with the maximum occupancy of 6 and 2 vehicles, and no other infractions or code violations were reported in the last 12 months. So it meets all of the requirements of the ordinance and is recommended for approval, subject to annual renewal.
All right, anybody got anything for Carolyn before we move on? All right, is the applicant here? Did you want to say anything? No, we'll give you a chance if somebody has something to respond to. Is the anybody here in opposition? Let's start with opposition. 808, number 3, DeSoto Street. I am drawing a blank. What's the name of that little condo deal? You know. What is it? What's the name of that little condo?
They're on there every week, so.
I know, yeah, it's like you just don't look at the sign anymore. Never mind. We're going to stick with 808, number 3. Anybody want to speak in favor or in opposition to 808, number 3, DeSoto Street, short-term rental? Anybody? Once, twice, sold? All right. Do I have a motion to go out of public hearing? So I got a motion. Was that you, Mike?
Yep.
Second by? Second by Marshall. All in favor? Aye. All right. We are out of public hearing. Do I have any questions, comments, concerns from planning commissioners?
My only concern on this one is just the parking, like, this is the first one we've had in this complex, right? Do they have a limit on this? This is the second.
The second one in a multifamily, yeah.
Yeah, in the same development, we had one last month.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, do they have, I know they typically have like one spot or they have a garage. I didn't know this unit.
Well, it meets the requirements as far as what the condos allow
Okay.
a typical resident to have, so it meets that same requirement.
Similar to the last, or I
Yeah.
guess a couple short-term rentals ago. This one, it lists the contact as a landlord, as Ms. Harper, I believe it is. But is it Robert going to be the property manager?
I had Chris Dearman, I think, oh, you're talking about the letter?
Yeah.
She's from the HOA.
She's
Okay,
from the HOA.
Okay, excuse me.
So she would be the HOA contact if there was any question.
That's his
Well, no,
contact.
David Boland, that's his contact. I think
Yeah.
David Boland is the HOA.
Yeah, so Chris Dearman is actually the property manager.
Under the short-term agreement information, though,
Right.
they list the landlord and not the property manager.
Oh, on the agreement itself? Okay, I didn't catch that one. We'll just need to,
That just needs to be revised.
that just needs to be revised.
Number X, what's that, 10? 10 on there? Personal contact?
This is
Okay.
on
I
your
think
rules,
Miranda
is what
was
he's
the
talking
real
about.
estate
You have a
agent.
local contact. Okay. So
Yeah,
you're
we'll
good
just
with
update
making
that to be-
change?
Oh.
All right, he says he's good with making that change.
Okay.
If you want to make a motion that includes subject to having the correct property manager listed, I think that would be appropriate. Mike or anybody?
I don't even see it.
Yeah, right here. So it's personal contact on the short-term rental. So if I'm renting a property from them, then I would contact that person if I had any problems, but it's not the property manager.
Not touching Chris.
I got you.
It's for anything related to the short-term rental, it would be Chris.
Prior to going to the board, I'll have them change that.
Yeah, it'll be changed before it goes.
All right, anybody want to make a motion?
Well, that's my place.
Scared. I'll make a motion that we recommend approval of short-term rental permit 808 Number 3, DeSoto Street, PID 60119106.010, subject to annual renewal.
All right, motion by Alan to accept as presented. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Joe. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? July 5th, you as well. All right, next item, 4G, is going to be another short-term rental, 409 East Beach Drive. Parcel ID is 601-223-10000. Jesse and Ann Moskowitz are requesting a residential short-term rental permit. Do I have a motion to go into public hearing?
So moved.
Motion Mike, second
Second.
Joe, all in favor?
Aye.
We are in a public hearing. Go ahead, Kelly.
All right, property owner will also be the property manager and lives actually on the property. On the property here. The notice was sent to 17 adjacent property owners within the 500 feet. The inspection was conducted on May 4th, and during that inspection, the occupancy of 5 was reduced to 4, with also 4 vehicles being allowed, up to 4 vehicles, but I believe she's restricted to 2, or that's just the maximum amount. So no feedback was received prior to the meeting, and no code violations, police reports, or any other infractions were on the record for this property for the last 12 months. So it does meet all the requirements of the short-term rental ordinance and is therefore recommended for a permit subject to annual renewal.
Okay. Is the applicant in the audience?
Yes.
Did y'all want to speak? No, we'll come back to you if we need to. All right, anybody in the audience want to speak in opposition to 409 East Beach Drive, short-term rental? Name and address, if you will.
I want to speak.
Okay. Can you come to the microphone?
I will.
If you're able, or we can bring it to you if not.
Oh, no, I got it.
All right. And just name and address when you get started, please, sir.
My name is Dempsey Levi. I live at 401 East Beach. Lived there since 1983. With the exception of a couple of times when hurricanes said I need to move back for one time about a year and a half. It seems like my neighbors up and down the street, we fought this battle one time before with Scott Walker, right down the street from me. And some of the problems were extensive traffic coming in and out behind Doug Roll's house. Down he lives on
Indian Trail.
Holcomb, just one house off the beach. Now, I heard you speaking or saying something like 4 cars are going to be added, can stay at this place at one time. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so that would be 8 to 15 people or thereabouts.
No.
Actually, it's only 4 people.
They only allow 4 people.
All right, 4 cars with 4 people, so a car can't have but one person.
Oh, I mean, they could all come in one car. They don't have to have 4 cars.
Okay,
No
but
more
they
than
could
4
have
cars.
4 cars.
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, I don't know if any of you guys have been down by that area in a while, but presently it's packed with cars commencing at the little bridge there on East Beach, right just to the west of my house, which is 401, and where our parking starts. Now, actually, just above it to the west, there are several parking places there, but we have cars parked there all the way down, almost down to where Marty Wagner's house was, and that's the Moskowitz house. And they're like pretty much bumper to bumper, and maybe you'll see about 8 or 10 golf carts parked down there also. And I'm guilty, I have one. But it seems to me that there is somewhat of a traffic problem down that street. Not that that should make any difference. 4 cars could park up in the Moskowitz house. There's ample room up in there if they will mark it off, put markers so they'll know where these people are going to be parking. Because that little house where they're talking about, are they going to be limited to 4 people at one time in that house?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
4. Okay. And I'm assuming that they're required to have someone on the premises at all times. Is that correct or not?
No.
No. That bothers me. And we fought this battle, I think, one time before, that there's not somebody there all the time. Because, it's my house that I live in, and I'm concerned about how people act to a certain extent. I had 3 kids that grew up there, and they almost acted as bad as me growing up. So, anyway, it bothers me about how that can work. We need somebody there that owns the property, in my humble opinion. Or the young lady who was here saying she is the manager of a lot of different places. Maybe she could stay over there and keep a supervisor.
Yeah, so let me just say, so we're running kind of low on time for you, so we'll
Yes,
get
sir.
you to summarize it. But I do want to point out, there doesn't have to be a person there all the time, but there does have to be a person on call all the time. And that's what the property manager would be, the person kind of on call. If there's a problem and you needed to get in touch with somebody because whatever, then that would be the number that you would call.
Right, I'm familiar with calling. That doesn't work a lot of times, and you well know that.
Well,
Depending
I don't
on
know
the
that I agree.
situation, of course, a lot of times you can't get somebody. The other thing is, of course, there's a lot of children up and down there, which incidentally, this needs to be a 20-mile-an-hour speed zone down there, as opposed to, y'all want to look into that too as a planning commission, work on the planning of that. But anyway, I want to go on record as opposing this.
Yep. And
Thank you.
primarily for traffic and safety
for
concerns.
everything I said.
Right. Yeah, I was just trying to summarize. Thank you. All right. Anybody else want to speak in? Okay. 409 East Beach, in favor or in opposition? Name and address at the microphone, please.
Sadia Laka, 419 East Beach. So I'm actually going to speak out in opposition of a rental. I kind of agree with some of the statements that East Beach has kind of just been a nice residential street with a lot of heavy traffic, a lot of people on it, a lot of strollers. People are parking not only there, but they're getting in front of my house and other houses along the seawall. The police do not come in and move the cars a lot of times. People are parking in the empty lot next to mine. And so there's just a lot of volume, a lot of children, a lot of strollers. I think the street was basically, a lot of homes there want to be residential. And I don't know how far out it goes, and I don't know if I'm allowed to speak on behalf of other occupants, but I've had discussions with Jim Reeves. He's happy to write a letter in opposition. Matthew Medier. My in-laws own 435 East Beach, which is Scott Walker's old rental as well, and they're ready to write a letter to in opposition of a rental property on that street as well. I think it's just a nice street, and people enjoy it from the city, and it's just to build out traffic and have people coming in and out and drinking and sitting on the piers and stuff like that. It's really, kind of something that I don't want in a community with my children, where they are, and so I really thought that was one of the reasons I picked it over Front Beach. It was kind of that sort of that residential kind of neighborhood where you kind of know your neighbors and everybody. And so I definitely feel, and I know Joe Cloyd has also said that he's going to speak out in opposition, and I've talked to Nicholas as well. And so we all kind of got together as a street, and we're kind of really against making something like that as an Airbnb. We'd like it just to maintain it as a residential street with homeowners who value the property, who are there and kind of protecting that neighborhood. And watching it. So that's kind of my 2 cents for that.
All right, so we can't, accept your we can't assume that you're telling us the truth.
Correct, I agree.
But
I agree.
whatever we do today will have to be reheard on the new public hearing from City Council. No?
It's not these go on consent for the board meeting.
Well, but they can still,
They can still
they're
submit,
still gonna
yes.
be- okay, sorry.
It would need to
It
be
wouldn't a
submitted
new
in
public
writing
hearing,
prior
but
to.
it can still be opposed, or those letters could still be addressed to the City Council before
Okay.
the July 5th meeting. So if they
Okay.
want to send something in, they can do that here. but
They
we
would
can't.
send it to the planning department.
Yeah, send it to Carolyn.
Or me.
Do you know Joe? Do you think Joe can get in touch with you?
I think Joe knows how to get in
Yeah,
touch with
I think
me.
Joe knows how to get in touch with her. So if they do, if you or anybody,
Yeah, they
Get
just
them a
need to
letter.
send an email to the planning admin email address that was in the notice, and we'll
Okay.
include that to the board.
so yeah, we'll note that you were up here in our meeting in opposition, same as Mr. Dempsey over there, and then if they want to be on the record, they need to either come to the council meeting, ask them to pull it from the consent agenda, or send letters in advance. Do they automatically pull it on the consent if there's opposition, or is it still going to be a
No, it will be,
game decision?
it's the alderman's call.
And that would still be Ricky on that half of East Beach?
Yes.
Okay, so that'd be the other avenue. So
Okay.
if it goes the way you don't want it to go tonight, and y'all want to keep going, then do
Appreciate you.
Can you repeat your last name and your address, please?
Sure, last name is Adlaka, Adlakha, 419 East Beach.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, anybody else want to speak in favor or in opposition to the 409 East Beach Drive short-term rental?
Yeah, I'm in agreement.
I'm not sure. Did you want to speak now that?
Sure.
Okay, come on up.
At Moscowitz, 409 East Beach Drive. Well, it's nice to meet our neighbors. Finally, I understand that people are worried about traffic. The way our house is situated and the available parking lots that we have available, it will not interfere with anybody else parking on the street. So there's plenty of parking really right next to the property on one side, and we have an empty lot on the other side of the property. So it's very secluded. I don't think it would bother anyone. Secondly, this little cottage that we have, usually we use it for our family to come and visit, but they don't spend the whole year there. So for about 6 months out of the year, the house sits empty. And we really enjoy Ocean Springs, we enjoy the beach, we enjoy the area, so we wanted to share it with other people as well who come in for a weekend or whatnot. I have 3 children, peer family of 5 basically, and we want to keep the place obviously within the rules, peace and quiet, and we're expecting families to come and visit just because of the size of the place and also because of the area. So there may be 4 parking lots available. It doesn't mean that they're going to have 4 single people coming and stay there. It's just the availability of the space, basically. And if we like Ocean Springs, we want to share it with other people. We want to keep it as quiet as it is for everyone. We just thought that it is such a beautiful place that it's kind of a shame to keep it empty for about 6 months out of the year. And I think it would be just a beautiful place for other people to enjoy as well.
Okay, thank you, Ned. Okay, before we close the public hearing, has anybody got any questions for Ned or anybody that came up to speak?
Yeah, just a couple things to address Mr. Levi's questions. You were asking if someone's going to be on the property itself. If I'm not mistaken, you are living on the
We
property,
live
is that right?
next door, yes.
So she's not living in the house that's being used, but she's on the property itself. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we have the main house and we have a guest house, and the guest house is the one that would be rented, which is right next door, yes.
And the 4 cars that are parked there now, does that include your vehicles, or is that
No.
in
We just
addition
have
to?
4 spaces available. We don't have to make it all available. That makes people feel more comfortable. We just have enough room. We have a driveway that comes off the main road, and we just have enough room for 4.
4 additional cars, or
4
including yours?
additional cars, yes.
Thank you.
And that's set by the fire marshal.
Yeah,
They can request any number, but the fire marshal actually approves or reduces.
Based on
that.
safety and the amount of space
It
available.
is usually reduced. I think that's just because they have the space.
Yeah, there's a lot of space there. And they do have a diagram there. There are 4 available, and
Right, I just didn't know if that included their vehicles as
Right,
well.
no,
So
this
that's
is
all.
separate.
That's the reason I asked.
Yeah, we have a 2-3-car garage, plus we have 2 more spots by our house. So it would not interfere with the parking. I do agree that it is a very busy street. It's getting busier and busier. But whoever would come visit us, whether it's for the rental or our family, that is never park on the street that we have it on.
I drove it today. There's construction out in front of your house with, I guess, the pier going up. It's one-way traffic for the most part. It is a very, very busy street, but I don't know how that plays into.
Like that, I expect whoever would be staying with us or next to us.
there wouldn't be any on-street parking.
Right, no on-street parking.
All right. Is that it? You got anything else? Anybody else have anything before we close the public hearing?
Do we have anything about it being an accessory structure as opposed to?
no, it's the fact that it is a standalone structure that is that can accommodate residential use makes it
has its own
compliant.
address.
Yeah, this particular one is, it functions as an accessory, but there are two. This is the one that has 2 lots, right?
They had 3 or 4 lots, but they merged them when they purchased the property into one, in one parcel.
But no, there is no, you can have an accessory structure be a short-term rental. It's just only one for that property, and it has to be the standalone structure, so.
Anybody else? You want to close the public hearing? You have a motion?
Motion to close public hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I got my way, something.
Come on up.
I'm Nancy Allen, 1402 Helmers Lane. I just have a question pursuant to the availability of parking. So, for instance, the way I see that perhaps being used, if that's appropriate, is if they go rent some golf carts. When y'all figure out parking as supposedly golf carts or street legal, are they considered vehicles?
Yes.
So yeah, that was just my only question.
Yeah. Same thing.
Okay. All right. Now, anybody have a microphone? Now do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close
All
public
right.
hearing.
Motion Joe, second Marshall, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. Anybody else got any comments or questions before calling for a motion? Anybody want to take a stab at a motion at the East Beach, what was it, 409 East Beach short-term rental?
I move that the request for a short-term rental permit for 409 East Beach Drive be approved, subject to annual renewal.
Marshall approve motion. Does anybody second that?
Second.
Second by Joe. All in favor of approving as presented? Aye. All opposed. All right, so that'll be on July 5th, consent agenda, and that'll be the final ruling. So we're a recommending body. They make the final determination.
July 5th, I will be out of town.
Okay. She can get with you or Amanda to get it moved to the...
Yeah, we can put it on the 19th. You'll be here for that.
I'll call you tomorrow.
Okay, just call.
What date we're gonna have it on?
July 19th.
They're going to move to the 19th of July.
So we're going to skip another meeting.
And if you'll let, I saw Sonny just ran out, just kind of let him know too. I think he heard it, but maybe not. All right. Now, the next 2 items are both going to be public hearings. These are going to be amendments to the UDC. Same process as what we've been doing. Item 4H, public hearing, is an amendment to the UDC for the City of Ocean Springs, amending the following sections and chapters. Chapter 3, zoning districts, building types and uses, and section 3.9, overlay districts. This is regarding fences. Do I have a motion to go to public hearing?
So moved.
Motion Matthews, second Marshall, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. I don't know. Which one is this? Wait, go ahead.
Yeah, next will be my item. Okay. You passed out the handout on the photos, please. Okay. What this does, we've had some concerns expressed to us about primarily the appearance of chain link fences in the front yards, and that there's a need for a amendment to the UDC to address that. So, what this amendment does, 2 things. It identifies the existing Porter Avenue district and the Government Street overlay district, which are already identified in the UDC. And within those areas, the ordinance amendment, it's outlined in red text in your the report, would put requirements on the material of fences within the front yard. Those are both the actual front yard that faces the house, faces the street, and also what's referred to as the street side yard, which is identified on a graphic in the report. And the photos that were passed out would those would be examples of the types of fences that would be both acceptable and unacceptable in those areas. This ordinance is based on the language that Biloxi has in their fence regulations regarding what is acceptable material for fences, with the main provision being that chain link fences would not be permitted in the street sides of yards. It would still continue to be allowed on side, interior side, and on rear yards, but the appearance of those chain link fences on the street has been an issue, so that would be not be allowed by this ordinance amendment. And again, this would affect the Porter Avenue corridor, which basically runs from its eastern end to Jackson, Martin, excuse me, and then also in the downtown area, which is identified in that graphic that's in the report. So that, in a nutshell, is the amendment, and I'm glad to answer questions about it. Thank you.
I have one question.
Yes.
On page 1 of the bottom picture, I guess you call that square wire fence, I don't know what you call it. But on the proposal on page 2, second paragraph, I don't know how it fit in with the combination of wood posts and planks, wrought iron, decorative metal materials, brick, stone, or masonry materials. I'm just not sure how that one fit into those descriptions.
I mean, it is a, let's see.
It's wood post.
Because it has the wood
It's wood post and then
Decorative metal, maybe?
decorative metal materials, I think is what it was, the idea was on that. I mean, if
Well, like a
you,
ranching wire fence, that's what I was curious.
I mean, if you think that the text needs to be amended to better describe that, we can certainly do that. That was one of the reasons why we included these illustrations, is to kind of give you an idea of what would be allowed and what would not be.
Right.
How would this affect construction fencing?
Not at all.
That's temporary.
That's temporary.
Temporary is not included.
I think it actually, in the ordinance, doesn't it even say, like, this doesn't apply to temporary fencing or something, like, none of the fence stuff does?
Well, the fence ordinance itself does not apply to
Right.
temporary construction.
Exactly.
Like, by definition,
But
right?
the whole
Okay.
section.
As long as it stays temporary, as long as it is temporary.
So you can't have that permanent orange net if you wanted to.
Yeah, exactly.
I got a question. So chain link fence is allowed in a side yard fence, correct?
Correct.
But is that extending beyond the building line? Not the required building line, but if I have my house 40 feet back instead of 25, can I come up that 15 feet?
Yes.
Should we make it maybe to where it doesn't extend, no chain link to extend beyond the building facade?
If that is your, I mean, that would certainly be consistent with the goal of improving the appearance from the street and for pedestrians. Yes, so adding that to it as an amendment to,
We could.
I'm not sure how exactly to do it off the
Well,
top of
there's-
my head, but we can work on that.
There's similar verbiage for height, and I don't have it right in front of me, but as far as you can have a taller fence in the back, but that
I think
height
that's what I
has
pulled
to
out.
stop, and usually it's the front of the house or the mid point of the house. It has to step down to that lower 4 foot.
We can make reference to the
So it could be similar.
to the front line of the. We can make reference to the front line of the building, which would be, again, what's Carolyn, what you're talking about. That it would not,
Similar
that
to the
the,
way the height.
but that the chain link fencing would not extend closer to the street than the front line of the building.
Right, because we don't have any fences can go beyond the front setback anyway.
Correct.
So, I mean,
But
you could
only
take
4
a
feet,
chain link
but in
to-
4 feet, right.
But the height is reduced, so that reduction in height could also apply to no chain link
Guess
in
what's the
that same.
cheapest and easiest fence to get in a 4 foot height?
Chain link. Yep.
But yes, that
No
could
orange
be.
fence.
Orange netting, that's right. Orange netting.
Specifically, no orange netting.
I was curious about height because we got the letter in our packet.
Yeah, the height is already, we're not changing the height,
No.
right? Is that yard?
No.
Yeah.
It must be in a separate section. I didn't see it.
No, that's not being addressed at this with this modification.
It is.
We're just dealing with the materials.
Do we have an idea of how many properties are affected by this now?
All of them going forward. All of them.
There, at least in both Porter, there's not that many. When I was driving around taking these photos, I was a little surprised at how few there really are of chain link and other material. But again, those the existing ones would not have to come down. They would
Right,
be
they'd be
coming
correct.
just non-conforming, but they cannot be rebuilt like that to be repaired. But there's just not as many as I expected.
So talk about like expanding the area. I mean, it's not a huge area. We're talking about a downtown overlay district.
No, well, that's where, those are the two areas where the UDC goes mostly into design and the emphasis on the appearance from the street. That's why at least it was limited to that. I mean, certainly if it's your intent, goal, we could, come back and expand this to a larger area. I think that might be beyond what could do this evening. That would be expanded the ordinance, but
But we
only
could
do
look
it
at that moving forward.
future as an additional amendment.
What precludes, you said the side fence could be, the interior side fence could be chain link, and that go forward to the house?
That's what we were talking about, that, yes, right now, yes, it can go forward of the house. I think from what Andy was suggesting is that it would stop at the front line of the house.
I think I'd agree to stop it.
Similar to the height, so we could make that addition before it goes
The
to.
height, I believe, actually goes just to the front setback line, not necessarily the front of the house.
No, it has to go down to 4 feet. I can't remember how it's worded.
Well, I just read it right here.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's the 25-foot setback.
Yeah.
Well, for residential property. Now, when you get into like CMX1, that's only a 5-foot front
Yeah,
yard. So
just
yes, it could go, under current regulations, it could go.
Yeah, to the
Past
front
that.
setback, and then it has to dump down to 4, and then I think I saw the 4 foot from the right of way. Okay.
Can I ask what type of fence that Mr. Perkins was building?
His was wood and wire,
Square wire.
right, square wire. It was very similar. The one on the very bottom of page 1 is very similar to that one.
What was that?
But his was taller. His is 8 feet.
What address is that? Or what street?
That's at the corner of Washington and Front Street. Front Beach, I mean.
But his is at 8, so that wouldn't be in compliance.
That's right, it wouldn't be the same. Right.
But he isn't in the overlay district.
Nothing would be addressed.
This is just downtown Quarter Avenue.
Again, I was just looking at the public comment, and I didn't know who Mr. Perkins was.
Yeah, I gotcha. I agree. All right, so we are in a public hearing. I don't guess there's an applicant to call on. Does anybody want to talk fences? Anybody in the audience want to talk fences? Name and address at the microphone, please.
My name is Sylvia Bosco, 509 Front Beach. You may have a picture of my home there, I don't know. But the only thing that I would like to suggest is if you're going to be making some fence rules and guidelines and ordinances, that you actually follow them. Can I hand out something to the?
Sure.
This is the guidelines that are set out in the Ocean Springs Historic District Design Guidelines. And I'm in the Historic District. They're talking about Porter Avenue. I'm sorry, I'm nervous.
Been here with 100 times. Do you have an extra one you can give to Amanda? If not, I'll give her my copy after.
I'll do that.
Okay, thank you.
Amanda, can I read from that? I'm sorry.
When you're done, that's fine.
I was actually out of town in Austin, Texas, taking care of my grandkids when the construction of this fence took place. I actually started receiving calls from friends saying, "What are you doing? Why are you putting up this hideous fence next to your property?" And I said, I didn't put this fence up. And if I said, the man in the purple house behind me put this fence up. And if you look, I'm going to refer to section D. I've highlighted several things, but I'd like to read one part of it, where it says backyard privacy fences are acceptable. These should not extend forward of the center line of the house and are best kept behind the rear of the building. Had I personally requested to build this fence in the historic district, I would not have been allowed. And have lived in this home since 1955. That's when my father bought that home. We've paid high property taxes there all these years. And I'm rather disappointed and sad to know that our city government does not protect its people. I don't know. I went to the historic meeting and I explained that I'm sorry, I probably shouldn't be going into all this, but okay, and also let me read where it says waterfront properties. Since the, let's see, waterfront properties, water fences is found dividing properties and enclosing utility areas. Since the rear yard is such, maybe I should have started ahead. Because of the limited amount of front yard fencing for the properties, few new fences should be proposed in order to preserve the characteristic landscape of these properties. I received calls when I was out of town. When I actually got back and went to my church at the First Presbyterian Church, I can't tell you how many people just walked up to me and said, Sylvia, why did you put up that fence? And I just laughed. I said, I'm sorry, I didn't put up that fence. The man requested a backyard fence for his yard, and it serves no purpose. He only wanted rocks in front. And he actually told the historic district the reason he wanted the fence was to keep the raccoons out of the yard. And the swamp, the marsh is in front of him. But I could go into a lot more detail, but I probably should maybe meet with the historic people. This is not your problem.
Well,
all I'm trying to say is if you're going to make rules and regulations, please follow them. Because that fence clearly, if I would have requested to put that fence, I would have had to stop midway of my property, according to these guidelines. So I apologize for taking up your time. I just felt like I needed to say something. And I hope this doesn't get back to Mr. Perkins, because he's already made a veiled threat to me. He stopped the fence where it is, which comes up past my front porch where I'm sitting. The man that was installing the fence told me that he said he would probably stop there, but the city has allowed him to continue. Oh, have we discussed the height of the fences that are being proposed in the Porter Avenue district?
They're not changing.
Okay, is it 8 foot? Because in this,
In the rear, but not in the front.
Side and rear.
right, that fence comes up right. It's blocking the front porch.
Yeah. So you are correct that this would be a historic preservation committee, that's the name of the committee,
Commission.
issue. We don't know anything about this particular fence. I tell you, boiling our ordinance down today, it's almost as simple as saying no chain link in the front yard of these two districts. Am I oversimplifying? I mean,
That's all we're considering today.
I am glad you gave us this, because it does say right here that these backyard privacy fences should not extend forward of the center line of the house and are best kept towards the rear of the building. So,
And that's only for
well, sure,
historic.
no. I'm not talking about relative to that issue. I'm just saying for us, we could borrow that kind of parlance for if we do want to make it where chain link actually stops at the center line or the front of the building.
Well, I think the issue here too is the backyard that she's talking about is the backyard in one house and the backyard in the other house are perpendicular, right? So that's
But actually, I'm sorry, but actually that is not his backyard. Excuse me. He has changed the entrance to his home. The whole purpose when he bought that property was to bring his driveway in from Front Beach.
But his address is on Washington Avenue and yours is on Front Beach, so that's
Yes,
the
sir.
way we would orientate it.
I understand.
So who would she need to, is that a code issue? No, it has been built. Does she need to talk to code, or does she need to talk to?
No, it's gone through commission.
I'm not trying to get the fence removed. I just want to make you aware of what things are being presented very in error to you. You've been presented things that are not always correct. So I just want to make you aware of the codes that are actually in Ocean Springs, and I'd like to make sure that they are enforced in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else want to speak about fences? Specifically, we're discussing the change to the ordinance that, in short, would just prevent front yard chain link fence in Government Street and Porter Avenue, or Government Street overlay, which is more.
Can I say just one more thing?
It's like 5 seconds.
Is there any way that you would not, the fence is not gone past where it is right now? Is there any way that you could rescind, because they've already given permission?
We can't do anything. This board can't. That would be either code enforcement, historic planning, or
Board of Aldermen.
That's the only things I can think of.
So I need to meet with the Board of Aldermen.
Yeah, we don't do, I don't think planning ever has anything on fences.
No.
Well, did y'all approve this fence? Did this fence come to y'all?
No, we don't approve.
See, here's what happened. It just went
But
to
it
the
may
Board
go to
of...
somebody else. We don't
Okay,
know. We're just
sorry.
planning.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're
Sorry,
just planning.
thank you.
All right. Anybody else want to speak on fences? Once, twice. Do I have a motion to close public hearing? All right, I got a motion by Matthew, second by Mike. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Out of public hearing. All right. Anybody else got any comments? I know I had pointed out I'd probably rather see it stop either at the center line like this says, or at least at the front building line, not the building setback line. I don't know if y'all want to make the motion based on that, whoever does, but anybody got any other questions or comments about the ordinance that we were presented today? I would actually like to see, to your point, I believe it was Mike, I'd actually probably like to see it apply to R1 and everything, but I think probably cleaner to deal with this today and deal with that at a later date. That attorney's kind of nodding his head officially, so.
Yeah, we can go back and get input and see if there's support to, we may need to look at it differently to apply it citywide.
Okay, let's do it that way. Let's try to address this one as presented today. Anybody else got any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I like what you were talking about creating that center line and showing it.
You just need to add the verbiage about the chain link would stop
Would
at the
stop.
front of the structure.
To the front or even halfway through the structure. How was it?
Midpoint.
Midpoint of the
That's what
structure.
this one says, is the midpoint of it. I mean, that's where most
If we're talking-
residential fences stop. Very few would come all the way to it, but I'll say they can. Matthew, you got any questions, comments, thoughts? Do you think it should be the center line, the front, or just let it go all the way to the front line?
I think it's short top of the house.
Front of the closest adjacent house.
That's a good point. In front of the closest adjacent house, so you or your neighbors, if they're set back a little bit. Okay. Anybody got anything other than that? Or does anybody want to make a motion if that's the only thing we landed on differently?
What is the motion?
It's whatever you want it to be.
Following amendment, read draft ordinance, read chapter 3. So we're making one modification, and that's to have the side yard fence, interior side yard fence, stop as part of the house.
Yes.
Would that be just chain link side yard fence?
Chain link would
side
not be
yard
beyond
fence
the front of
versus
the
adjacent
adjacent house.
House.
Okay. So
We'll get the exact verbiage nailed down from the attorney.
I tried this at recommend approval of the following amendment related draft ordinance related to chapter 3, sections 3.9.4, 3.9.5 of the UDC for the reasons described in detail in the staff report with the following modification. 6.9.4, 1.1.2, interior side yard fence of chain link not extend past the front of the lawn, the property. Should dwelling the right word?
Let's say building line, because border would have, and government could have some.
Building line.
Yep. That would be the actual building line, not the setback. Yeah. Okay. You got enough to work on the real language from there? Yeah. Yeah, good. That's why we're volunteers. Yeah. All right.
But words to that effect, right?
Yeah. Motion by Marshall to accept as presented, but adding to stop at the front building line. Do I have a second? Second, Joe. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. All right. That one will go on.
The next, on the 5th, July 5th, it'll be advertised for another public.
I do have one other question, though. Done with this one thing. That funny looking fence that's at the bottom of page 1, how are you going to best describe that?
Welded wire. Welded wire.
Welded wire? Okay.
As opposed to chain link.
Welded wire fabric, that's right.
All right. Great.
We used to call it hog wire, but I don't think that really says any ordinance well. Item 4I, last item under new business. Public hearing, an amendment to the UDC for the City of Ocean Springs, amending the following sections and chapters. Chapter 3, zoning districts, building types and uses, table 3.6, land use matrix, and Chapter 7, rules of construction and definitions. This is regarding medical cannabis. Do I have a motion to go to public hearing?
So moved.
All right, motion Matthew, second by?
Second.
Second by Marshall, all in favor? All opposed. We are in public hearing. Wade, you want to tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, okay. What this does, it, the state passed, the state legislature passed the medical marijuana bill back in February. And opt-out time was in May. And now the state is in the process of reviewing the applications. They've kind of setting up their approval process and other things to review the applicants for the various types of medical cannabis facilities. So what the amendment that we're proposing does, it will set definitions for the types of medical cannabis enterprises. It's cultivation facilities, processing, research facilities, testing, transportation entities, disposal entities, and dispensaries. All those items, those types of facilities, will be defined in the UDC, because obviously they don't exist there at the present time. And then also it will add those uses, those types of facilities, to the land use matrix to determine which zoning districts they will be allowed in. The state regulations define the uses, and then they also have some broad descriptions of what zoning districts, zoning restrictions they are permitted in, like dispensaries, research and testing facilities are to be allowed in commercial zoning districts. That's per the state. And then it says the local city and county can determine which commercial districts will allow which type of facility. Then also cultivation and processing are to be in the agricultural and industrial zones. So following on that, we are proposing that the cannabis dispensaries will be permitted in the CMX1, CMX2, and CH commercial districts, basically all the basic commercial districts that we have. Then cannabis cultivation processing facilities will be permitted in the M1, basically the industrial manufacturing district. Then the research facilities, testing, and processing will be in the CH and the M1, both the most intense commercial district, the highway commercial, and also the industrial area. So what we've done, we've incorporated those definitions into the definitions section and incorporated those uses into the land use matrix of the UDC. What we are not doing is we're not getting into the buffering requirements that are identified and set out by state law regarding the 1,000-foot spacing of buffer areas and also the 1,500-foot spacing between the dispensaries. That will be dealt with by the state, by the Department of Health, and also I think Department of Revenue is involved in it also. That will not be something that we're doing. We have included a map is in your packet just to illustrate in draft form where we've identified the schools, child care facilities, and churches based on the best information we have available and what those buffer areas look like. Now those are the 1,000-foot buffers. They can be amended down to 500 feet, but that is something that's going to be dealt with by the state of Mississippi, not by us under these regulations. So, with that is the summary of the regulations, and glad to answer any questions you might have about them. Thank you.
All right. You got anything for Wade in particular before we go to public? We go into public hearing already? I don't remember. Amanda, did I go into public hearing? No. Let's just do it again just in case. Motion, anybody got a motion to go to public hearing?
So, Wade, you were saying the buffer is all state law right now?
Correct.
Essentially, we're deferring to state law when it comes to the buffering requirements.
The way the legislation is set up right now, and they're still working on the details of it, is that is something that will be reviewed by at the state level, and then they'll pass it on down to us once it passes.
So local municipalities don't have any authority over that at the moment anyway?
Correct.
So I love boiling down ordinance changes. All we're talking about today is zones and definitions, best I can tell. Which zones we allow things in and what we define, and we probably stole the definitions from the state if I had to guess.
Word for word.
They're exactly word for word.
Okay. So zones and definitions. Motion to go into public hearing. Do I have that motion? Alan, second by whoever you want to write down. Let's go Matthew. All in favor?
All right.
All opposed. We're in public hearing. Wade, take it away. I'm just kidding.
Ditto.
All right. So, anybody else have anything for Wade now that we are back in order?
On those two issues, no.
No.
On those two issues, no.
Wade doesn't control when your card gets here. Do I have anybody in the audience that would like to speak in favor? Let's start in favor of the ordinance as presented. Any former mayors or anything that want to speak? Name and address at the microphone.
Thank y'all. Shade Office, 2011 Stewart Avenue. I'm not sure if this is the exact right time to ask this particular question, but I've looked at the state laws, and I wasn't able to look through the entire thing from the packet today, but it's got a question about parking lots, and it's kind of confusing at the state level whether parking lots are included in the radius of churches and daycares and schools. So if you have a dispensary, you have to measure that radius from the front door to the property line. And so what it's not clear on is if the parking lots of a school, daycare, or church is included in that property line measurement. So that's what I just like to get some clarification on that. I don't know if this is the right time or what, but
I think the right answer is we don't get to have a say. Like Ocean Springs does. Is that? Yeah.
That's set by the state.
We defer to the state, and so we are looking for clarification on those details as well.
I've heard a lot of confusion on that too. It does say property boundary, then it talks about front door, but not the other. But I have heard that, and maybe the law is finalized. I don't know, like how they could change it or interpret it, but I don't know. But we're nothing in our ordinance today is addressing that. I mean, it's just a matrix of what can go where, and it's permitted in this district, it's not in this district, and then what each one is. So, I mean, I think that the official answer is we'll do what the state says we have to do.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. Anybody else want to speak in favor? Let's just go. Nobody's really in favor or against. Anybody want to speak about the medical marijuana ordinance medical cannabis ordinance that we have in front of us today. Questions, comments, thoughts? We're not voting on whether or not it's legal. That's done.
Twice.
Twice. Anybody else? Got a motion to close public hearing, Marshall, second by
I'll take it.
Mike. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. We're out of public hearing. Any other further comments? I'll tell you what, for the audience members that stuck around, we'll go ahead and just let you know. So I think Wade already said it though, which districts were which. The only thing I would ask to be changed, and this is up to the commission if y'all want to do it or not, but there is no conditional use. We only have permitted uses. I think that we have virtually no M1 district, and I think it's a coffin nail to say that the cultivation is only allowed in M1. I would like to see that added to CH, even if it is a conditional use. That would have to come to us for consideration. But my understanding is that cultivation, I think it's even in the definition, has to be an indoor, locked, secure facility. So we're not talking about like some dude just planting a bunch of plants in his backyard and go in there. So
what do you say? We don't have M1?
We don't have very much.
I'm just saying it's very, very minimal. It's the old concrete plant, a few others just scattered, the optics place, and, just a smattering of.
No, I know. I looked at it.
I was just thinking and that's just my thought. Maybe making it a C for CH for conditional approval required, but allowing cultivation in CH. That'd be my only suggestion.
And I think that, I don't have it right in front of it, it allows local municipalities to make that determination.
Yeah, that's in there. It's
well, maybe I should say it's approved by state law.
Yeah, it does say that we can make that determination, but.
So yeah, our definition for cultivation, I do want to be clear, it does say cultivates and harvests medical cannabis in an indoor, enclosed, locked, and secure area. So we're not talking about a
field,
public farm that anybody can just jump the fence and do whatever they want to do. So that would be my only change. Everything else looks pretty in order to me. What you got, Matthew?
I do have a question for you on the draft map and everything, on identifying the churches and schools and et cetera. The initial zone.
Pull that up. I'm sorry.
Put the map up.
On the, which page?
Last page.
It's the last
Map.
page, it's the map. Okay. Just to get a clarification on the existing zoning with the church and everything, be it if the church is zone or conditional use on a commercial piece of property, this map that y'all are making a recommendation on the draft, you're not changing the zoning of that church.
We're not doing anything with zoning or anything with it. This was just for reference.
Okay, this
is
just a clean
It's just an
reference.
illustration of what the buffers might look like. It's
Just for reference dealing, for who does the measuring anyway? It wouldn't be the city, would it? It would be.
That's not set up yet.
Yeah, that's
And
unclear.
presumably it would come from the state. Now, I don't know if they'll ask for input from us. That's, ain't got there yet.
It's similar to the way liquor stores and bars, liquor license operate in a similar way, but the wording is slightly different.
The city doesn't
The city does not do that. They have to get their permit through ABC, and ABC goes out and measures. We just can look at it and say whether or not we think it is allowed, but they're the final say-so on that. This was just to kind of get an order of magnitude of how the buffers may.
I know it's been beat to death, but this does not go as part of the ordinance. This is just a attachment that is going to be in our packet so we can see.
It's an illustration for discussion purposes.
This was when we first presented this to the Board of Aldermen just for information purposes. This kind of was requested of, what are we dealing with? And again, I just want to emphasize that this is a draft, and the locations of the churches and schools and childcare as best we can find out based on knowledge and researching it on the internet.
Okay.
So just for my information, what happens down the road if a daycare facility wants to be built in an area that is currently zoned for this? I don't know. Well, after this is passed, but so, for example, if someone wants to put a daycare center on the corner of Hanshaw, and it's within 1,000 feet area? Well,
You're saying if you already have a dispensary in operation.
Dispensary would trump it. I mean,
Trump
is
it.
first in line.
Right.
But
Not
if
to say whether or not they could put the church or daycare there after the fact, I really don't know.
With ABC, the only thing I can compare it to is ABC, and if the bar is already there and a church decides to locate, that's on the church, and it doesn't affect the bar as the way ABC, the alcohol works.
I can't go
Right. It's what is currently active.
Right. So, but if someone tomorrow goes and puts a daycare center there, then that automatically you have another 1,000-foot.
It's whatever is,
that would affect future cannabis facilities.
whatever is
Right.
in activity at the time that they apply for their permit.
Totally clear, we're not talking about that today.
Hopefully one day we will be able to.
Sorry.
But those are the fine-tuned things that we need to understand, but we don't regulate or have anything to. We don't have any authority over.
It's not exactly understanding.
It sounds like that to us as well.
I think we had a joint conference on this and discuss.
Is that a pun intended?
Bennington?
All right, anybody else relative to our ordinance have any thoughts? Does anybody echo my
I agree
cultivation?
with what you said, Andy. I mean, I think it's all makes sense based on the lack of.
I think so. All right. Does anybody else have any questions, comments, concerns, or does anybody want to make a motion to push this up to the approvers? Really, guys, we used to be a town and they didn't give a recommended motion.
I know, but
we used to have to come up with our own motions on the spot.
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of the attached ordinance amending the Unified Development Code to provide regulations for medical cannabis facilities, in addition to adding a conditional use to CH zoning for a cannabis cultivation facility.
Okay, motion to approve as presented with the C next to the CH zone for cultivation. Motion by Alan, second by?
I'll second.
Second by Mike, all in favor? All opposed? All right. General public comment. Anybody in the audience have anything non-agenda items to talk about? Anybody? Anybody that works at the Walter Anderson Museum or anybody else? Doesn't matter. All right, Commissioner Forum. Anybody up here got anything to say?
I think we should look at the fence stuff closer. I mean, I think her issue is very, very real and kind of falls between the cracks the way it came out, right?
I think beyond her issue.
With the back going
That's always, it doesn't come up very often as far as the rear abutting the side, and it's never to neither party is actually ever happy with that. It's a complicated issue, but
do we collectively think that we should go ahead and apply today's ordinance to like R1 and everything, R2 if it's legal?
we can make that recommendation to.
If we're going to do it to part of it, do it to the whole city.
We can share that with the board that you all are in favor of expanding it, and then get direction from them.
I don't know if we can do it for the whole city.
Why?
I mean,
Why can we do it for part of the city? We can't do it for the whole city. I think it doesn't make any sense.
I mean, if we start applying it to, say, R1 or R2, I mean, that would be for the whole city.
We'd have to look at each zoning district and see if there's anything that it conflicts with, but.
More complicated to do it to a particular area. That's more specified and not as uniform to the whole general public.
Are you saying that?
New development, everything that's going in, I think there's a lot of stricter rules anyways.
Yeah, most HOAs have a no chain link even built.
It doesn't
into
come up
HOA.
very often.
Right. You just have a lot of, I think, area that would be elevated by this over the long term.
I mean, it doesn't come up often, but I could go do it tomorrow.
Right. And it did come up. I mean, we were given the direction to look at especially these two areas, especially in light of like you've got a mixture of residential and commercial. So that was part of that discussion that started this, but it certainly was discussed at some point as should we look, but I think we need to take a little more time to look at it and make sure it doesn't conflict with other regulations in different parts of the city. Okay. Those are already overlay districts that have special.
I mean, we just wanted to start out small, and if it got some interest, well, it'll
Those
go
are all
forward.
the overlay districts we have.
No, but those are.
View protection, but that's kind of not the same thing.
I'd
It's
say
different. That's more for the height of the building. It's not really for what appears from the street.
Well, y'all just kind of let the board know we talked about it.
Yeah,
and
yeah, we'll
see if
pass
they
that
agree.
along and-
Or expanding the districts in general, I mean, I think that would be
Yeah.
another option.
Or let me ask you over to talk about that. What's your all's general feeling about 8-foot fences?
I got a problem with it.
I think it's fine in the rear. I don't think you should have one that comes up.
Not in the front yard, no.
No, I think 8-foot rear and 8 foot on like an interior lot up midway of the house being built and everything.
I mean,
So if you-
because, well, the way our ordinance is worded right now, that in certain situations, you can actually have an 8-foot fence on the property, on the street property line in very select situations.
And I think there was some verbiage that was lost when we did the UDC because, and I could be remembering the historic district, so I'm going to go back and double check, but it seems like the previous code had something similar to the historic as far as, because we have in the past, and I'm talking, 6 years ago, had people to step down so that it was 4 foot by the time it got to the front of the house, and that has been required. So that may have been verbiage that was kind of lost in the new code. So, but that is the way the historic reads, and that is the way it has been applied in the
It does
past.
have to step down in a driveway situation, right?
It's a line of sight issue when it gets, past the front of the house. It goes a little bit.
A side triangle.
Side triangle, and that's why it does it.
Triangle's already in the EDC.
The only reason why I suggest 8 foot on sides, not going past the center of the house moving forward, is if your house is already elevated on that lot, 6-foot fence, your neighbors are kind of.
Right,
And
it allows you to
That
do
could be a
privacy in your
variance.
backyard.
That would be a perfect ground for a variance.
If
Yeah,
you're,
it's
if
like
you're,
the ability to address the specific.
Which marriage, you can only do 25% because of our all-powerful ordinance.
And you love that, we know that.
6 times 1 1/4 does not get you to 8, right?
Maybe it can, they can always.
You can have a 7.5 foot fence if you go through a 2-month process to get there. And you're gonna like it.
come on, tell us how you really feel. But no, we'll go back and look at that because it does make sense in for logical and aesthetic.
And what's the 8 foot? Is it the post or is it the fence?
The highest structural.
Here's all you need to know. Sheepdog ears are made in 6 foot. Cat fours are made in 8 foot.
No, I got my ears framed on one of those.
Oh, man. All right, anybody else have anything for Commissioner Form, other than the congratulations to the planning commission to do a bang up job? I think that's a really sound.
Oh, I think we all agreed that we wanted to. Oh, no, no.
Yeah, don't we have to do something with this paper, Amanda?
Yeah,
If you could let me know, yes. Amy
Yes.
told me and Kevin told me. Electronic?
Yeah, I can do that.
Bring iPads.
But if there's like a map or something that you just want a large printout of,
Yeah, she gave me that.
I would get on.
Actually, that's what I would probably recommend is, if it's something that's real detailed, just go ahead and print that out. As
we can
everything else.
individual sheets, or if there's a memo that just is hard to read on the electronic for some reason.
We're going to buy everybody's iPads next year?
Now you have to bring your own iPad. We will give you the Wi-Fi password.
Okay. I'm good with that. I would like a hard copy of the agenda only.
Okay.
That's my note-taking area. All right. Anybody else, Commissioner Forum? Motion to close, adjourn. I got a motion and a second. Marshall and Allen. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Nay. I guess y'all win anyway. All right. Y'all really want to leave? All
right, I'll see you at the EDR. Do we have an EDR? I'll see you at the EDR.